Welcome to the US Kiss Vinyl Reference YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, folks, welcome to another installment of the U.S. Kiss Final Reference. I am your host, Mike Stone. Do I really have to keep introducing myself? Eh, I guess it looks all professional like and shit. Anyway, um, moving along, this is episode number 9, I think. I'm not really keeping track. uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, episode 9. So, as you've probably guessed, and if you're like me, you've been waiting for, today we are going to talk about Alive number 2. So, fun fact, this is my favorite Kiss album of all time. This is the first Kiss album I remember seeing uh, long before I became a Kiss fan. I was over at a buddy's house or something like that and just happened to be rooting through his dad's record collection. And, well, I seen those pictures on the back of the album cover and it it got my attention. So, but I wouldn't become a Kiss fan for probably another 5, 6, 7 years till the reunion tour. Um, Buddy didn't have a turntable, so there was no way to listen to them. So all I could do was just gawk at the covers. But anyway, Alive 2 is what it is. Got several variations. Got a couple of 45s to talk about. And if you'll join me, we'll check it all out together. All right. And here we go. Alive 2. So it was released in October of 1977. Recorded from 3 nights at the LA Forum, and some of it was sourced from a show in Tokyo on the Rock and Roll Over tour, and some of it was piped in from sound check recordings and whatnot. And then there's a studio side as well. So, um, big album for me, big album for Kiss. I'd consider this probably the zenith of their career in the 70s. What came after this would have been double platinum in the solo albums, which kind of started the way down the other side of the hill, so to speak. So, and getting into all these variations, as always, we will start off with promo copies, and there are plural promo copies, I might add. So let's get into some of these variations. Now, the most notable thing is Alive 2 is where they started putting gold stamps on the jacket. So this particular variation here, you'll see there's a hype sticker on the jacket. And we'll go ahead and zoom in on that. And then on the back side, see if I can get it to reflect the light. You can see it says demonstration not for sale. Now this is kind of an oddball promo stamp. It just happens to be the first one in my pile, but most Kiss records have a different promo stamp. And then let's look at this almighty gatefold. This is the stuff that dreams were made of. So, and obviously that's not like a shot during a certain point at a concert. This is staged. You know, they had everything going off at once and fired up the camera. You know, this is you won't find a point in the concert from the Love Gun tour that looks exactly like that shot. It's just not going to happen. But anyway, it's enough to captivate somebody's imagination. And I will say, because so many copies of this were pressed, I'm guessing that it came right off of the line and they closed it up and sealed it up and didn't really give that gatefold too much of an opportunity to dry. Because a lot of gatefolds that I see from Alive 2 have some sort of damage. You can, yeah, you could see over here that little spot there, and it's on this side as well. And some look worse than this, but that's just a theory on me. I have no inside information there, but okay. So we've established now that gold stamps are a thing. All right. This particular one has a hype sticker stuck on the jacket. Now, not all promo copies will have a hype sticker on the jacket. In fact, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, if an Alive 2 promo copy has this sticker on the jacket, a promo copy, it's got that particular stamp on the back. And then we'll look at the goodies. We got custom inner sleeves, got the discography on one side, and then a crowd shot on the other. And they're both the same, so LP1 and LP2 have the exact same inner sleeve. Get that back in there. And then another thing that I think we're at the peak of is packaging with Alive 2. So inserts. We got a 8-page booklet here mirroring what they did with the first Alive album. And I'll scroll those across the screen here, but it's just well, as the title implies, the evolution of Kiss. And you just kind of got some shots of the members, and then as you can see scrolling across, and then there's a little a short biography, I guess, just kind of key points in history, as they say. So that booklet should have come with anything that was pressed in the 70s. I mean, it could come with record clubs. Neither of the record clubs that I have had it, but you know, that's not to say it wasn't lost at some point. Next up is the merchandise sheet, which I'll fly up both sides of here. And my, what an investment that stuff would have been back then if one could scrounge up the $30 or so to buy everything here. And then the temporary tattoo sheet. And I know there's probably a lot of kids that use these up pretty quick out of the gate. And I was going somewhere. It'll come back to me. Anyway, so that's a cloudy piece of like wax paper on front, you know, If one was to peel this off, the tattoos would probably, well, they'd probably come off with that wax paper now after 40 some odd years, but ideally they would look nice and crisp. And oh, okay, I see where I was going. The backings have three different, there's three different backings, and I don't know that there's a correlation between a backing and a certain variation of the LP or none of that. It's probably just whatever they had. Without having all three of them in front of me, which I forget that I can multitask and do other things while I'm filming at the same time. It just so happens that I have scans of all of this stuff for some apparent reason, and I can look all this stuff up at will. So the first backing, there are 6 steps to the application process. The second one, there is a 7th one added, a 7th step. And the third one has 6 steps to the application process. And then the numbers at the very bottom, you've got like 468091 and then 523977. The third one has 6 steps and those numbers are not present. So that's the 3 different backings. And yeah, I'll have all this up so you can see it for yourself. But yeah, that's the inserts for Alive 2. And as we've touched with in the past episodes, like with record clubs and stuff, I've opened up copies that were sealed that didn't have any inserts, and I've had friends that have opened up copies and they've had the inserts except for the merchandise sheet. So I believe it can come correct either way. So if you want to hunt down inserts for your record club copies, I think it's correct without the merchandise order forms. Personally, I'm not going to hunt them down, but that's just me. All right, now on to the first label variation for the promo. All right, we have the logo above the spindle hole and the title below the spindle hole. You can see on the left it says promotional copy not for sale. So there's your label variation for, there's your first label variation for the promotional copy. And I said in the Love Gun episode that starting with Love Gun, the promo copies seem to be easier to find. To me, it doesn't seem to be the case with Alive 2. That one still seems fairly tough to find, especially all 3 different variations. So, and it can get quite pricey, even a stock copy alone, if it's got all the inserts with it. It can be quite pricey nowadays. So a promo copy could cost even more because it's kind of hard to find. All right, we're on to our next promo copy. And this one does not have a hype sticker on the jacket. Yeah, I got a little rash right there, but it is what it is. And then gold stamp up here in the corner. This particular copy just kind of damn near missed the stamp altogether. There's only about half of it. So we have the same inserts and inner sleeve, so there's no need to pull that out. All right, and then showing the label. Now we have the title and the logo above the spindle hole. And those are two pretty big KISS logos there. That's about the best way I can describe it. And then on the right-hand side, up above where it says the catalog number, it says promotional copy, not for sale. So there's our second label variation for the promo. And I do believe this was the first promo copy of Alive 2 that I got. Not that any of that really matters, but there's the second variation. And the third variation, which now that I got a second, I'm going to point out. If you notice between the two of these, if I can do it without taking them out of the cellophane, this one here fades to kind of like a deep blue color at the bottom, and this one here fades to a purple. So there's a little difference there to look at. Alright. And then we got the gold stamp. We got the whole gold stamp on this one. And as you can see, it's worded different than that first one that I showed. And then the label variation. Alright, you got the logo and the title above the spindle hole. The title's considerably smaller than the logo. And then on the right hand side, above where it says side 2 stereo, it says promotional copy. It says promotion copy, not for sale, not promotional. I was trying to, I'm showing you the label upright, and on the back side, the label's upside down, so I have to sit there and think about it for a second. Get off of my Kool-Aid, boy. Got my other little cat trying to rub on my records. Well, my other cat, now he's my only one now, but man, we talked about that a couple episodes ago. And who can resist showing that gatefold again? All right. Now we are on to the retail copies, and right out of the gate we have kind of a special rare one, so to speak. And I'm going to show you the track listing from my promo copy. Alright, so if you take notice here, the promo copy goes from Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, all that. If you look at the copy below it, it goes Detroit Rock City, Take Me, and such and such and such. So we all know the track listing of Alive 2. This track listing here has 3 additional songs listed that are not on the album. You got Take Me, Do You Love Me, and Hooligan. Not necessarily in that order. So this is the error copy that people talk about. And I'll get my promo put back up while I'm talking. And they are pretty tough to come by. They're not impossible. I mean, I've held 5 or 6 of them in my hands, so they can be found. And some people have tried to rumor that there's only 50 that exist. Well, if there's 50 that exist and I've had 5 or 6 of them pass through my hands, that's well over 10%. I don't buy that. And there's also a Facebook page that has well in excess of 100 copies documented. So anyway, so we got the 3 extra tracks. They were never pressed onto the vinyl. And then with the record, see that logo and title above the spindle hole. There's a promo copy that matches that label variation, but this is just a retail copy. To my knowledge, nobody has ever shown a promotional stamped copy that had the error track listing. It's always been retail copies, and I mean, who knows how many's out there, really. It's not 50. And I mean, it was just a case where they started to run it and realized that all of those songs were not going to fit on the record. So they nixed 3 of them. Who knows if they got a hold of these printing plants and said, hey, these 3 songs, we're sending you new files over. Well, they already printed these up, so they weren't going to throw them away. So that's what I think anyway. And now, as if the error copy isn't hard enough to find, there are 2 different error copies. So these both have the same track list. Take Me, Hooligan, and Do You Love Me added to them. But the difference, and this is a big reason why I decided to pipe in images for some of this stuff, because this is going to be a pain in the ass to hold up. The publishing credits inside the gatefold is where the difference is. So as you can see, the one on top has 7 publishing credits, and the one on the bottom has 6. And yeah, that's a pain to hold up. But so with the 3 extra tracks on the back, that shifted the publishing credits, where there was 7 different publishing credits. Then when they took those 3 extra songs off, that shifted the credits down to 6. And the gatefold lists 1 of each. There's a list for the 7 publishing credits and a list for 6. You can find those gatefolds in both the error copy and the regular copy. So, let's see. That's the one I showed you. So we'll put that one in its bag. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to keep this straight when I got more than one of them out. All right. All right. And then the label variation on this other error copy. You got a small logo above and a small title below. So that seems to be a common label variant. I would think that you could probably get an Alive 2 error copy with any label. I've seen several, so I don't think it's really tied to one label variant or the other. So yeah, that's one to look out for. I mean, you can find them on eBay. Maybe the seller doesn't know what they have and you can get one cheap, or if it goes to full auction, you'll pay for it. You can find them in record stores for cheap. I got one of my copies came from eBay, and the seller didn't really know what they had, so I got a good deal on it. And I got another copy at a KISS convention, and I mean, I hate to say it, but the seller didn't really look through what they had. I mean, I'm sure the seller was aware of the error copy, but they didn't look through what they had, and they had that in their box for like $60 or something like that. And yes, I bought it rather quickly. So yeah, one can find a deal on an error copy. Just takes patience and persistence. And a funny story about the one that I found at the KISS convention, me and a friend of mine had went around that whole room, looked at just about every piece of vinyl there. And then we went around and goofed off, did other things. I went back down into the expo center and started looking around again, and that was at the very first table. So we both overlooked it. And even once we got about 3/4 of the way done through looking through all the tables with records, I kind of joked with my buddy how disappointed I was in both of us that we weren't flipping Alive 2 copies over and looking at the track listing. So kind of a funny little story, and I still ended up with that one. So it was kind of entertaining, to say the least. All right, now we're into regular retail copies. And yeah, the track listing doesn't have Take Me Hooligan or Do You Love Me now. So the label variation on this one, you have the title below the spindle hole and the logo above the spindle hole. And then I'll bring up an image. If you look at the publishing, like under Detroit Rock City, it just says KISS Cafe Americana. So no punctuation in between, so to speak. So yeah, I'm kind of pointing that out for a reason. Then the next one, Next one looks the same as the one I just held up. And now I'll have to throw that image up here. If you look at the publishing under Detroit Rock City now, it's Kiss / Cafe Americana. So kind of a variation within a variation kind of situation. And I have no more Asian words that I can throw at the end of that. So I'm not much of a poet. Alright. Then the next label variation. Okay, it still looks the same as the other two. There's the logo above and the title below. But if you look at the catalog number and the side 2 stereo on the other side, it's in a different font from the other two that I showed. And I'll have them up side by side there so you can see for yourself. So another variation within a variation. They pressed the absolute hell out of a Live 2. It shipped platinum, so that means there was 1 million copies in stores. So they utilized several pressing plants, more than normal because it's a double album. So that means each pressing plant had to press 2 records to make one album. So they used a lot of pressing plants. I want to say it was like 8 or 9 maybe. And apologies for that. I said it on another episode that my desk is right above a heat vent here, and whenever the air kicks on, it has enough force to vibrate my camera. That's why I looked a little wonky there for a second. All right, next stock copy. And yeah, I haven't been touching on anything on the jackets because there's really not anything that's changed. So other than the error track listing. Yet again, we have a logo above the spindle hole and the title below. And the only variation is that the logo is real close to the spindle hole instead of up towards the Casablanca logo. So that's kind of 4 different little subsets for the same label variation. So it can get a little mind numbing if you start collecting label variants, because I mean some of these variants are kind of petty, I admit, but variation is a variation. All right, next up, we got the title and the logo above the spindle hole, and it's 2 big logos. If you remember, I showed a promo that was like this. And as far as I could tell, I mean, just the label variations, none of these are really hard to find. None of them that I showed yet, anyway. other than the promos, but yeah, just these retail label variations, they've all so far been pretty easy to come across. So, I mean, for the most part, you should be able to expect to pay the same pretty much for any of these retail copies. All right. And then our next variation, you have the title and the logo below the spindle hole. So is a little bit of anarchy when it came to putting all the information on the labels. They just kind of let the pressing plants do that. And pressing plants had their own way of laying out the text on them. And we end up with all these label variants. Okay. Next up, that's not the record that I wanted to show. There it is. Quit it. All right. This one is the same kinda as the last one I held up. You just notice that the title's missing. It doesn't say Alive 2 there. So, and that's, I've seen quite a few copies like this, so I consider it a variation. You know, it is kind of an error a little bit, but it's not a one-off by any means. All right. Now we are getting into record clubs. And like most Kiss records from the 70s, the CRCs did not mark their labels. So, you know, you can find this in a retail jacket too. But the way this one is marked is in Paul's picture, you have a bold printed CRC. Then our next CRC, you have in Paul's picture a thin printed CRC. Hard, quit. Shut that little turd out. All right, and the last CRC variation we have a CRC sticker, which I'm not going to pull that jacket out. There's really no need to. And funny enough, there's a thin printed CRC on there. I never noticed before. They're not all going to be like that. Most of the time it'll be just a sticker. So, and now we move on to RCA. RCA was a lot better about marking their stuff. So here on the back of the jacket, you've got the manufactured by RCA Music Service under license, 6550 East 30th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46219. And then it gives the license number. And then when we pull the record out, RCA also had that same information on the label. As you can see up above, it says manufactured by RCA Music Service under license. And then over on the right hand side where it says side 1 and stereo, it gives the license number. So they were always better about marking their stuff. Now we're getting into reissues. So, as I've harped about, we all know about the series that has the UPC printed on the jacket. Right before that, Polygram reissued a series. And there will either be a UPC sticker on the jacket or it'll have a printing plant number on the jacket. A lot of times if there's a UPC sticker on the jacket, it's covering up that printing plant number. So the printing plant number in question is that 501 right there. And then there's no inserts, and these come with just a plain Casablanca Filmworks inner sleeve. And then the label looks a little familiar, but instead of it having a Sunset Boulevard address at the bottom, now it says manufactured and marketed by Polygram Records Incorporated, 810 7th Avenue, New York, New York, 10019. And right before it says manufactured, you'll see 53 there. So that 53 is a pressing plant number. Those pressing plant numbers started around 1979. Polygram itself didn't start these reissues until around 1983. The catalog from the debut to Creatures of the Night got reissued with this Filmworks 2 series here, as it's called, with just the printing plant number on the jacket. They went from the debut to Creatures of the Night, did not have the Elder. So it obviously started after Creatures of the Night, so that would have been 83 or so, and it started before the printed UPCs, which started in 1985. So that gives you a window of 1983 to 1984 on this Filmworks 2 series here. All right, and we go to another Polygram reissue. This time we have a printed UPC. And then the label looks pretty much the same as the label that I just showed you. It's got the same layout. It's got the 53 on it. And another thing I will point out here in a second, these came with those cheap plastic inner sleeves. And I got that back in there pretty easily, actually. So look at that text underneath the track listing. It is yellow. So I'm making a point to point that out there. So you guessed it, there is a variation. So we got the printed UPC, which the UPC looks a little different also. No need to point that out really, but if you look at the text underneath that track listing, it is white instead of yellow. And then there's also a label variant involved here. So you can see it's got a different layout to it. And on the left-hand side, underneath where it says side A in stereo, 33 and the third RPM, you'll see the plant number 70. So that's just a different plant number from the other that I showed. And then there's some other differences, but the yellow and the white text is the main difference to look for, instead of nitpicking and, well, okay, this UPC's got this on it and the spine says this. Just the yellow and the white text on the back, that's all you need to worry about. And of course the label variant. Now, one label doesn't necessarily correlate to one jacket, so you can find either label in either jacket. So, and now we move up to the Kisteria box set. They reissued the whole back catalog in 2014 on vinyl. Some titles were exclusive to the box set, most weren't. This one you could find in stores, or you can find it in the box set. So let me just pull everything out here. We're going to start off. They recreated the inner sleeve. They also recreated the booklet and the tattoo sheet, and I'll pull that tattoo sheet out because now they've got it covered with clear paper, and you can see how crisp that they are instead of that cloudy wax paper. And then the vinyl. They reissued it on a Filmworks label. Notice the Mercury logo down at the bottom of the label. That'll keep you from mistaking it for a vintage copy. And these 2014s were done very well. And why the hell not? There's that gatefold again. All right. And then moving up again, we have another reissue. This was exclusive to Kiss Online. They did this in 2022 is when they did this reissue. Now, the first thing to start off with is the Alive 2 logo is in blue. And that is kind of a tip of the hat to, I want to say, Argentina. I think had a copy where it was yellow and then another copy where it was blue. I want to say it was Argentina. It was somewhere in South America. I do remember that. And then the inside of the jacket is also blue. And then they updated the Filmworks label with the new catalog number and then the new copyright date. And then to bring it back, that's like a red, white, and blue splatter. I forget the official title that they gave it. It's on the hype sticker. I can pull that out real quick. Limited edition red, blue swirl. A swirl, a splatter, a marble. I mean, they're all pretty much the same thing. But yeah, I think this is definitely one of the better colored vinyl copies that they've done. I was happy with it. Of course, I mean it would have took a lot for me to not be happy with Alive 2 because it's my favorite album. So I might have some rose-colored glasses there that other people might not share the same sentiment. But to me, I think it looks great. Now, if I can get this thing back in here. That's kind of the problem with these thicker records now. Everything's made on thicker inner sleeves and records and everything, and it's all kind of fighting for room inside your jacket. It can kind of be a pain to get everything back down in there. It can happen, but well. There we go. And then, yeah, I use those clear inner sleeves too, so that takes up a little bit more room. And then another Kiss Online exclusive, also released in 22. This was limited to 500 copies worldwide. So I don't know if you can tell, but the Alive 2 logo is cut out of the jacket. So if I grab a hold of everything and slide it out, now you can see it's red because the inside of the jacket is red. And there's my finger there. So I think that they did very well on this. I was kind of wondering how well they'd be able to pull it off because if you look at old copies of Alive 2, you know, the gaps on those letters aren't very wide, and it wouldn't take much to mess up that die cut. So you gotta kind of finesse it a little bit when you handle it. So I make sure that I leave the inner sleeve in the front of everything. That way, if I'm sliding my booklet in, or, my little thing with inserts, if I'm sliding it in, I'm not going to be catching on the leftovers from the die cut letters. So, to be honest, this hardly ever leaves the jacket. And this is also a picture disc, which I'll just hold up one, but I'll put all four sides up on the screen so you can marvel at the four of them. And as I said, this was limited to 500 copies worldwide, so this thing sold out within a matter of minutes. And that's kind of been the way that they've been doing them for the last couple of years or so now, is they'll do a standard edition that could be like a colored vinyl, or, it can be a picture disc as well. And then they'll do a deluxe edition, which is usually a picture disc. In the standard edition, you probably got 2,500, 3,000 copies that they run. And then the deluxe limited is usually 500 copies worldwide. So there is the U.S. issues of Alive 2, the album. And now we will talk about the 45s. So there was 2 45s from Alive 2. You had Shout It Out Loud backed with Tomorrow and Tonight. No, Shout It Out Loud backed with Nothing to Lose. And Nothing to Lose is off of the Alive album. And then you had Rocket Ride backed with the live version of Tomorrow and Tonight. Live version of Tomorrow and Tonight. That was one of the sound check songs. So starting off with Shout It Out Loud, we're in a Filmworks sleeve, and it's on a Filmworks label. Promotional copy here. All right. Notice up at the top on the right-hand side. The right-hand side, it says promotion copy, not for sale. That was the mono side. And there is the stereo side. All right. We have another promotional copy of Shout It Out Loud. Now, if you look up on the right-hand side of the label, it says promotional copy, not for sale. There's your mono side. And there's your stereo side. Now getting to the stock copy, there's quite a few variations. Mostly the variation is going to be on the B side. So here's your Shout It Out Loud side. And here's your Nothing to Lose side. Now just kind of keep in mind, underneath Nothing to Lose, there's 2 lines of text. All right. next one, you have the Shout It Out Loud side. And then you have the Nothing to Lose side. And notice now that there are 3 lines of text under Nothing to Lose. All right. Next one. There's the Shout It Out Loud side. And there's the Nothing to Lose side. Now you'll notice that there are 4 lines of text under Nothing to Lose. Another one. There's your Shout It Out Loud side. And then there's Nothing to Lose. And you'll notice now that there are 5 lines of text under Nothing to Lose. And if you go over to the left side of the label, there is a small gap between the KISS logo and Produced and Engineered by Eddie Kramer. So I pointed out more than one difference, so that probably means that another one's coming. So here's another one. There's a Shout It Out Loud side. And the Nothing to Lose side. Got 5 lines of text under Nothing to Lose. And now look over to the left. There's no gap between the KISS logo and Produced and Engineered by Eddie Kramer. So there's you a few variants to hunt down for Shout It Out Loud Nothing to Lose single. And they're not hard to find. I mean, they can be found pretty easily. I didn't have to really search for them. All right, so the Casablanca singles box set from 2012. They reissued the singles from 1974 to 1982, so basically from the debut to Creatures, the makeup period. Got a bunch of different picture sleeves from around the world to use in the set. So this version, I'm gonna say that's from Germany, judging by the text on the back. And then it was reissued on a Filmworks label. So there's your Shout It Out Loud side. And there's your Nothing to Lose side. All right, That does it for the Shout It Out Loud single. Now we're moving to Rocket Ride tomorrow and tonight. So for the promo copy, you see up on the right hand side, it just says promotional copy not for sale. So there's the mono side. And there's the stereo side. And I have not noticed a variation in the single or in the promotional copy. So I haven't been able to find one with a difference on the layout or anything like that. So Rocket Ride is a one and done. And then got a stock copy here. So there's your Rocket Ride side. And your tomorrow and tonight side. And for the stock copy, I also haven't noticed any variations. So no difference in text that I've been able to see yet. And then, again, from the singles box set, we have a picture sleeve from Germany, judging by the back of it. And there was a similar picture used for the Love Gun 45, except the picture was black and white. So, and then the vinyl was reissued on a Filmworks label. So there's your Rocket Ride side. And there's your tomorrow and tonight side. So that is the Rocket Ride 45 from the US. And now I will talk about a 12-inch single. So on Ace's birthday in 78, apparently whoever, be it the record company or whatever, whoever put the birthday on, invited a bunch of people, and they pressed up a 12-inch single for Rocket Ride to give to those in attendance. It is in just a regular Casablanca jacket, for just a company jacket for 12-inch singles at the time, which you'll see right here. And I have a friend who thankfully provided me with a scan of the label, which I'll put up right here. And yes, I did watermark it, so I'm not apologetic about that at all. But apparently it's been rumored less than 300 exist. So it's not something that you could have just went and bought in the store for the most part. Now, somebody may have taken it down to a record store and sold it for a few bucks. Just, it'd be all profit, but it wasn't available at retail. Let's just put it that way. So it's a very tough single to find. I do not have one. I do have a good friend that has one. And as I said, he provided me with the label image for it. And this is, I'd say, among one of the rarest U.S. Kiss singles in existence, other than the Let Me Go Rock and Roll Hotter Than Hell Blue Label stock copy. This one ranks right close to it, really. So, but anyway, that does it for Alive 2, and I thank you for hanging in there with me. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you on the next one.